everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home and Away, a podcast devoted to all things in and around the world of sport in Kansas City soccer. I am Drew Vanderploeg, joined once again, as always, by my good friend Cody Welton. This week on the podcast, apparently the Force was with Sporting Kansas City on Star Wars Day on Sunday, as they needed to make some history to come away with a 1-0 victory against the Galaxy, doing so without registering a single shot in the game. While it wasn't necessarily the kind of historical moment Sporting Kansas City fans were hoping to be attached to, 3 points is 3 points, and it took a very organized and professional performance defensively to accomplish, led by both centerbacks Jansen Miller and Robi Voloder, as well as goalkeeper John Pulskamp. If anything can be said of the Kerry Zavagnin era so far in Kansas City, it is that he has certainly raised the floor of the performances of the team. Not once has the team ever really felt out of a game, and the problematic mistakes that have been a bugaboo of the past have seemed to have been significantly reduced, if not outright eliminated. That said, I'm not sure the ceiling has been raised a ton in this process. We'll discuss what we see as potential next steps to build on this foundation that Kerry is putting in place, and what our hopes are for the continued progression of the team this season. Finally, we'll talk about the current second loss in a row, FIFA and CONCACAF's latest cash grab play for a Club World Cup spot, and do a preview of a matchup that will seem pretty familiar as Sporting Kansas City heads to Portland this weekend, given they just played each other here in Kansas City just a few weeks ago. Cody, Kerry Zavagnin lauded the team after the game in Cincinnati for having their best performance of the year in his eyes, and on Sunday, I think they had their best defensive performance, not only of this year, but really in recent memory. I think Blake Ernie highlighted the stat that this was the first 1-0 win for the club since September of 2023. But I think this performance goes beyond the scoreline. So while we will certainly get to the offensive limitations that they had in this game, perhaps we can start on a positive note given the final result. And maybe just you could give me what your thoughts were, your biggest takeaways from how the back line played on Sunday.
I mean, the proof is in the scoreline, right? The back line played great. I think that it's obviously Jansen Miller and Robi.
Did you
Voloder.
call him Jansen again?
I did, and I did it on purpose this time too.
Well, Twelman was calling him Jansen on the broadcast. Like, the dude is from St. Louis. Isn't Twelman from St. Louis?
Yes,
like,
Twelman is allegedly from St. Louis. Yes. That is true.
Well, I should tell you everything you need to know about St. Louis. But
well, look, in honor of Jan Sommer's incredible.
Jan if we're gonna go full European, let's say the names correctly. Jan Sommer.
That performance yesterday was so insane that I think Jansen Miller. I'll go with it for a while. Yes. It's fine.
So he was on the first sort of iteration of the thing they're doing with the club that Blake Ernie is hosting that they're calling sort of Off the Pitch. They did like a sort of abbreviated version on the Sporting Kansas City show feed last week. And he actually talked about where his name comes from. And I guess his grandfather is actually named Jansen. Jansen Miller. And so they did kind of a version of that as an homage to his grandfather. So that's where. So I don't. And Jansen, I mean, there is a Jensen as well. I don't know. Anyway,
Jeff, reasonable people can disagree.
It's a soft J.
It's fine.
It's sort of like yogging. All right. Anyway, Jansen Miller, your assessment of his play.
I mean, he was phenomenal. I mean, he was probably the player of the match in my mind, and he just snuffed out chance after chance, and he didn't make any big mistakes, right? He didn't make mistakes that turned into super big chances for the other team, and I think that is like that's kind of a low bar, right? But that's where it starts, right? Is you have to start playing good foundational soccer, and you have to build that consistency. And I think that what we're seeing now, and this is how playing young players often works, is these players are just trying to build consistency week in and week out, and he seems to be doing that. He has become a much more consistent player, but also his floor is a lot higher. And I think that that when his floor is a lot higher, right? When you have a defender who's raising his own floor, then that raises the overall floor of the team. And we've talked a lot about the importance of having a good a good rapport between two center backs, and that might even be more important than having like super quality. Talented center backs, right? Having a pair who works well together is more important than having somebody who jumps off the page, as a fantastic center back in some cases. And so, I think that him and Voloder complement each other very well. I think that they seem to work together in a way that helps them mitigate the wide attacks that often happen because the fullbacks get stuck up in the attacking phase of play, and so if Miller has to come over and cover for Brody or Jake Davis, then Voloder can swing over and cover that spot, and I think that they've done a really good job of that so far. And I don't think they're perfect, right? Like neither one of them are big aerial threats either in defending or in attacking, and I think that is potentially very problematic. But I mean, like they're good.
Yeah.
They were good. They were good against a good attacking team, and a team with really high level attacking talent.
Yeah, I think when we get into the tactical corner, talk about how the team was set up and why it sort of worked. But yes, they did their jobs at an extremely professional and high level, and there were not those what we've come to describe as boneheaded mistakes that have often sort of taken this team out of games. And I think you talk about the two complementing each other, and I'm thinking about this because I mean that's a pretty young center back pairing. They're both 23. Like that is a really young center back pairing for most teams. Like you don't normally see that. But I think to your point about them working well together, they seem to see the game in a similar way. And so when one of them does something, the other one expects it, right? And when the other one does something, they're expecting the play from their teammate to happen the way it does, and so they're naturally rotating to cover, as you noted. And I think that's a little bit harder when you're talking about playing Jansen Miller with Joaquin Fernandez or with Danny Rosero, who have been much more seasoned professionals as far as the number of games they've played. They see the game a very specific way, and Miller is having to adapt to them and what they're doing, as opposed to sort of playing his way and having another teammate that complements it, right? Or at least is reading the game in a similar way. And it's much easier to function effectively when you're not having to think about what you're doing next, as opposed to just reacting to what you see. And that leads to positive defensive performances. I mean, obviously, nothing that we saw against LA would lead me to believe that it's anything but these two center backs starting against Portland.
Yeah.
Even if Joaquin Fernandez is off the injury list, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't roll these two back out here and see if they can build on that performance together. I think your point about Jansen is really valid because he had a rough game a couple games ago, 1.5 kind of rough games where he got a little naive with how he would go upfield to do certain things, or got a little naive about how he would try to close out tackles and things like that. And he's just being just that little bit more thoughtful about his positioning. And the nature of the center back room right now is that he's been the only one healthy since he's come back from his own sort of injury issues, but becoming healthy. He's been the only one healthy the whole time, so he's played in every game. And so even when he's had a rough outing, he got to go back out there the next week and work on it. And that is something we also discussed. It's really important for youth development. We'll get to Jacob Bartlett here in a little bit, but I mean, it is a natural thing that's going to happen with young players who have limited experience as a pro. They're going to have waves in their development or in their performances. The key thing is that you see, if you were to average those performances, they continue going up. right? And I think that that's what we're seeing from Miller, is that while he's not mistake free, and literally no MLS player is mistake free, and even at the highest level, none of them are mistake free, but the performances continue to go upward, and they continue to improve at an aggregate level. And I think that that's something that was really exciting to me. He was an absolute clearance machine in this game.
He had 13 clearances.
I mean,
that
and
crazy.
that matched the eye test. Like, I remember watching it live and just seeing him get down and clear and block so many centering passes, and I was like, this is unreal how many of these that he's clearing. And sure enough, like, it showed up in the stats. Robbie Voloder had his own fair share of clearances.
He had 8 according to Who Scored. So I mean,
and I think, Robbie Voloder gets the team of the week thing, and or team of the match day, I guess they call it. It's not team of the week, it's team of the match day, but whatever.
It really rolls off the tongue, doesn't
really
it?
does,
Team of the
right?
match day.
Well, it's because they want to do one even when there's a midweek match day.
Oh, I know why it is, but they need
anyway, he was the one that made it, mainly because those things are based off of stats. That's all they are, is based off of stats. All of the starting defenders on the team of the match day scored a goal in their game, which is, of course, the primary thing that defenders are out there to do, score goals. So we definitely want to make sure we highlight when they do that. But he did aggregate a few more stats. He had the higher FOTMOB rating. It's just more about stat aggregation than anything else. But I don't say that to diminish Voloder's performance, because I think it was really good. And one of the things I really noticed on the rewatch was how much trouble he was giving Christian Ramirez.
Yeah.
Like, he was being extremely physical with Ramirez's runs, really bodying him a lot, like making it hard for him to get on the end of passes, just like really, really like getting after him. And I don't want to make Christian Ramirez out to seem like he's Christian Benteke, right? They're two different things, right? Obviously. But I have not seen that much from Voloder. Like, he has not been a guy I've seen really hassling the center forward and cutting off spaces for him and trying to chop off his runs when he tries to get on a centering pass. Like, that is just not something I've consistently seen Voloder do.
He doesn't present as a very physical player.
And he is a big dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he doesn't have the physique or the strength to do it. It's just like not how he presents his game. But we saw him in this game doing
so much of that is mental, right? So much of that is just the way that you approach the game. And you look at like Gary Medel, and he was like 5'8" or something like that, and started for Chile and a bunch of other teams, and he was a physical presence because he prioritized that. And I think that that in addition to being physical, the thing that makes these two players a really good pair is that they especially on Sunday, they played within themselves, right? They didn't try to do too much. They didn't try and improvise. They just stuck to the script and did the job, and they did it really well. And as little possession and as much sort of like being peppered by attacks in a bunker as the team had to sustain. If you imagine, Danny Rosero or Joaquin Fernandez, who are not, I don't think either one of them are bad players, but if you imagine them in that kind of situation, both of those players like to do things, right? They like to try shit, and that is I think that works against them in this case, and the opposite, right? The ability to focus and dial in and play within yourselves and only do your job, that worked to the benefit of both of these young center backs and to the team.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think it also provides some confidence in them that when they're given a very clear instruction from the coach and a very clear tactical plan and a very clear idea, and this is what I need you to do, and they just go out and do those things, it pays off. They get a shutout, they get the win. Like that just breeds more confidence into them going, okay, coach, what do I do this time?
Yep,
and they just,
absolutely.
and I think that some of that has just, there's, I think in the past, the feeling I got was a little bit of a sink or swim mentality, and it's like either you figure it out and become a pro or you don't. And I think this is a little bit more of an intentional sort of primary list of instructions that I need you to do, and just do those. And if other stuff comes off okay and you see it, fine. But this is what I need you to prioritize, and we saw that in this game, and it worked. It worked really well.
And to a sort of a more big picture perspective, as a coach, when you give players an instructions and they follow your instructions and it works, right? It does what you intended it to do, and the team is successful. You achieve buy-in, and every coach needs buy-in, right? Because coaches are leaders, and you need to be able to lead a group of men who have disparate backgrounds and different personalities. And the way that you get everybody on the same page is you prove to them that you're right and that you know what the fuck you're talking about. And there, I can just tell you, like, this is the first year I have not coached in like 15 years, and that is one of the greatest feelings, and one of the feelings that I miss the most about coaching is when you say, like, this is what I want you to do, and the player does it, and everything works out, and the player looks great, and you look like a genius, and the team looks great, and it's awesome. And hopefully it's something that these guys can build upon, and they can continue, Voloder and Miller, they can continue to find success with one another, and in turn make Kerry Zavagnin look like he's a pretty smart coach.
Yeah, the confidence goes both ways, right? It's not just the confidence in their own play, but the confidence they have in their leader to give them clear instructions, and that also builds for the whole team. It's not just that. It's like all of a sudden, all of your teammates have a little bit more faith in your ability to help win a game for you if they can only get one in the net.
Yep.
Right? And that is a big deal too. And I mean, this team has not been very good defensively. And I don't think this one performance all of a sudden makes them a good defensive team. I think we're talking about one very good defensive performance that, as I noted in the intro, has not been seen in quite some time.
Yeah.
So
you got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
Like, and
100%.
And this is a good place to start.
Right.
This is not like LA is not a good team, right? It's not like we waltzed in there and knocked off Vancouver or something, but they are a good attacking team, and the fact that they were desperate for a win, and they were playing really their strongest 11, and they weren't
had
able.
They had no one on the injury list.
No. They were able to close the deal.
Other than Pooch, obviously. Yep. But yeah, otherwise their injury list was clean. And they were not able to get, outside of, I know they ended up with like enough shots to get to like 1.3 XG, but outside of the one shot that John Nelson got, that was a great save by Pulskamp, by the way, like an outstanding save by Pulskamp. And I think that one set piece that Pulskamp had to push the ball over the bar didn't count as a shot for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway, I don't know that any of those shots were really that dangerous. And they had so many defenders standing in the way of all of them.
Yeah,
that they looked like Sporting Kansas City of old. That's what the Galaxy looked like in this game, and we're going to get to that when we get to tactical corner, because I do think that was intentional by Zavagnin to set up the defense that way.
Just a moment. I do want to hone in on Pulskamp, because Pulskamp had a very good game also, and just going back to sort of putting players in a position to succeed, and then letting them build their confidence. If Pulskamp doesn't have that game, against St. Louis, where Zavagnin comes in and makes Pulskamp, makes Pulskamp's characteristics a key part of the game plan, maybe the confidence doesn't build, and maybe he's not making these saves and essentially saving the game for the team. Like the building blocks are real. They're not necessarily always sort of like tangible. They're kind of they can be a little bit ethereal, but the building blocks and the momentum in terms of the way that that the team believes in itself and in the way that they believe in one another, like that's a real thing. And I think that like I was so impressed with John Pulskamp in this game. And it's funny, you and I were earlier. I was before the pod started. I was telling you that I listened to the ASA podcast about rebuilding Sporting Kansas City, and like those guys did not like Pulskamp at all, like at all. Like they were like he's trash, get rid of him. And I don't like. I have never thought that. I have always thought that you know that we needed to be patient and put him in front of. Put him behind a decent defense and see what he could do, and I think that you know that there's still a long way to go. Obviously, he's not perfect, but like if he keeps putting together performances like this, then it really raises the floor of the team.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm sure that John Pulskamp is good yet, but I don't think, as we've discussed since before this season started, it was the opportunity for him to play 25, 30 games and show us by the end of the season that it was okay to roll with him into next year, right? Yep. And this is really a 1-year tryout for him to be the starting goalkeeper of this team.
Totally agree.
And I think that we're seeing, as you noted, we're seeing those performances start to move in a positive direction. Especially in some areas in this game where he has historically struggled, which is claiming balls in the air.
Yep, 100%.
And
absolutely.
so there was some significant improvement in that regard, and it has been a problem for him for a while. It has been a weakness of his, and we're starting to see him take a little bit more control of his area and be more it's not even about aggression. It's reading that he has the time and space to go get that ball.
Well, and it's assertiveness, right?
Yeah.
It's like being assertive. Like, this is my box, and I control my box.
Yeah, and I hesitate to even call it assertiveness. I'm worried that he wasn't reading the situation correctly.
Yeah,
like
that's
he was
completely possible.
Like I think there was too much thinking and not enough reacting.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from just not playing. One of the things, so to the point of that ASA discussion, like we had before the recording started, was that it's a fascinating conversation to listen to. If you haven't listened to it yet, I think it is interesting if you like the analytics mindset and how analytics can help or create a certain bias about how you think about a player. All those guys are people who rarely watch Sporting Kansas City, so they're not very familiar with the players. They're only familiar with what the analytics tell them about the players. And so as a result, you can sometimes get a false positive about what things are. And especially when it comes to Pulskamp, the data set's way too fucking small for an analytics model to tell you anything about John Pulskamp. That guy has never cleared 400 minutes in a pro season, I don't think. So like, how could you possibly take a 20, like he just turned 24. So when they're having that conversation, he's a 23-year-old goalkeeper who has a handful of professional games spread across 4 seasons in goal. There's no way for you to have a reasonable analysis of what that guy is on the field.
Well, and goalkeeper data is so sparse anyway, and I
think it's a little flawed, to be completely honest.
I totally agree. Absolutely, it's a very difficult position to measure.
I mean, if you think measuring a soccer game is hard enough as it is because of how disparate the events are and how little each player actually touches the ball during the game, it gets even smaller with a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Like their touches are even more impactful to how they're quote unquote rated, right? And so I think that it's a really difficult position to analyze effectively, in my opinion. But I think that I trust people who know things about playing goalkeeper. The people I know that know things about playing goalkeeper have some concerns, specifically about his control in the air. Right, like it's just it's a thing that he has not been good at, and I got to be honest. Like even when I watch him, he looks awkward a lot.
Yeah,
and I think it's just kind of his physique and the way he is. His arms are so long. He looks kind of like a baby deer. You know what I mean? It's just like it looks a little bit uncoordinated at times, and I think it's just because of his physique that he looks that way. I've often thought Stephen Fry looks weird when he plays goal, but he's been a very successful goalkeeper for a while. So,
I think the Fry comparison is good because it underlines the fact that everything you say is true, but John Pulskamp is still like a baby. right? He's still such a young goalkeeper that he still has time to iron out a lot of these issues.
How old was Melia when he came to Sporting? 29?
Yeah, I'm sure that's
28 or 29
yeah,
when he came
yeah.
to Sporting, right? So, like, it should, it should tell you everything you need to know. Like, goalkeeping is just not a thing that usually players are really good at a young age. Gigi Donnarumma was playing for PSG at 26. That's wild. Like,
Yeah.
that you don't see that. Vicario for Tottenham is also really young. Like, we're starting to see it a little bit more in the world game, but still, it's pretty rare for goalkeepers to be good at a young age. But we're seeing MLS, we expect it more because typically in the past, especially for domestic goalkeepers, that's when we've had them. When
Right.
Tim Howard was here, was Guzan in MLS before he went to England? I think he was.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, so like we have typically become familiar with these extremely good domestic goalkeepers, and we only have them when they're young, and then they go to Europe and become much more prominent players. I don't think the U.S. goalkeeper pool is quite that good anymore. Not at the top end. It's probably deeper than it's ever been. Like, I feel like there's a lot of available talent, but none of it is that premier talent that we're sort of been used to having with the national team. But that said, I mean, there are a number of 23, 24-year-old goalkeepers, domestic goalkeepers in MLS now. Celentano in Cincinnati. You've got Schulte in Columbus. Chris Brady in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there are a number of them now. But Pulskamp's, all those guys have been between the sticks for 3 years already.
Yep.
Like, in playing a lot. Pulskamp has not. So I think that there's just we've hit this pretty hard already. But yeah, that's a thing where he needs to play a lot. And I think that what I was most excited about from this game, outside the couple fingertip saves and the big save on John Nelson, especially the way he smothered that shot from John Nelson was really nice. No rebound was really nice.
Yep.
But the command in the air, coming out early for that one ball in, he was really good on set pieces. The team defended set pieces really well in this game. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you about this because this has been a long recurring theme on this podcast that we have taken this team to task quite a bit for its poor set piece defending, and it was quite good in this game. Very organized. What did you see anything structurally about this? They're doing sort of a semi-zonal, semi-man marking thing.
Yeah. That's not new, right?
No.
Something.
I think it's new since Kerry took over. I think Peter had them fairly zonally marking in the past.
Okay.
Or at least that's what I remember.
It didn't look that much different to me, honestly.
Okay. But that's why I was asking.
But I could be completely wrong. Part of it I think is that Galaxy are not that good on set pieces. And so that,
which is interesting because Sporting has gotten wrecked by them on set pieces in the past. I mean,
Sporting has never been very good at defending set pieces,
sure,
since Ike Oparo days. Is when that changed. So yeah, I didn't notice anything that really jumped out at me. I'd have to go back and take a look at it. I don't know, but I think that a lot of what happens in set pieces is a lot of the same thing that happens in sort of that bunker defensive mentality, and at some point you just have to want it more. And I know that sounds like old school proper football man type talk, but it's true. And that's why I'm so impressed with Miller, is because he wants it more, and he's willing to go in and stick his nose in where he has no business sticking his nose in to make a block or save, get a clearance and save a goal.
He had a few aerial clearances on corners too.
Yeah,
that were
and
nice.
I think that is really part of it. It's just you have to be a little bit desperate to get to clear your lines. You have to play with a little bit of desperation.
Not even desperation. I call it aggression. Just a certain level of aggression that you need to take to defending set pieces. And look, all of these plays are basically a cage match.
Yeah.
Right? Like these guys are fighting with each other, they're battling off each other, they're trying to push off each other to find space, and it's really about who's going to outdog who. Especially in that line of about, 5 defenders and 5 offensive players right in front of the goal. Like it's very much just who's going to outdog who. And we haven't had the most doggish team.
No, we
And
have not.
I do, like, if there's one thing you can say for Jansen Miller is he does have that dog in him.
He
Right?
does.
Like that is
He
kind of
does.
his vibe.
Yeah.
And we've said that the ex dog on this team has been pretty low for a long time, and it's starting to come up just a little bit.
Just
and
that.
and that's nice. That's nice to see, and I think Miller embodies that. But I also, like I said, I was really impressed with Robbie Voloder's physicality in this game as well. And I don't know if somebody told Robbie, it's like, look, dude, I know you're a younger defender, but you're a big fucking dude. Use that frame, use that strength. You're in the gym working out every day. Put those muscles to use, man. Like, do something. Like, you all the ref's gonna do is tell you to stop shoving, right? Like, it is pretty damn hard to get a penalty for shouldering a guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard.
Yep.
So, like, you should be, and trust me, he's going to drive his shoulder into you. So, like, just, get after it. And I think we saw that. But I do think that what I have seen defensively and is just the team seems much more organized. They don't seem to be quite so haphazard
Yeah.
in what in how they're defending those situations. And the biggest thing for me, obviously the set piece defending was good, but the second phase of set pieces, LA tried to go short a lot and play into sort of a second phase because that is a place where Sporting has gotten disorganized in the past, and they weren't having it. And it was very nice to see. And I've got some thoughts on structurally what they were doing on that when we get to tactical corner. Another player I was pretty surprised by the continued improvement of is Nemanja Radoja. He looks like a legitimate central midfielder, and this is like the third game in a row that I've said that, and to the point that the guy that took his spot at the 6 was not having a very good day, and he had to rotate back there and take over that position. They brought in Bazong and did a very good job at that point too. There's something about I don't know what has sort of flipped for him about how they're playing right now, but he was very, very effective. He's got really good tight control, which is helpful, right? Like obviously we've always said that his press resistance is very good. But what I saw more in this game, and obviously none of it really turned into any significant chances, as we saw in the XG chart, but he was very effective at sort of tight control pass releases to Shallowy, like combining with Shallowy on the left. I was very impressed with that. They seem to have some level of rapport with each other, which is good. And they were just like, this team doesn't have a whole lot of tight window passers on it. They're actually this is a separate conversation too about how we need to look at them like building offensive chances and trying to create space, because passing through narrow windows is not really their bag.
It is not.
But Radoja, at least within if it's a 10-yard pass, if it's 10 yards or shorter, he is actually quite good at it. And he released Shallowy a number of times in tight windows, which was nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he is kind of becoming a fine option, right? Like he's not my favorite player, and I do think that the team needs to upgrade that position, especially given what we suspect his salary is. But I think that if that's the Nemanja Radoja that we have for the rest of the season, I think that's okay. That's something that
I'm not suggesting that he comes back on $1 million more a year, right? Like I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is like we're seeing an improvement from a player that we've both sort of struggled with, like, as to what his place was on this team, and he's definitely a better central midfielder than Memo or Zoe.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't think that that's even particularly a hot take. And I think he's actually probably better than Bartlett. So, like, I mean, I think
I don't know about. I don't know. Maybe.
I think he's a more complete player than Bartlett. Let me put it that way.
I mean, he should be. He's he's
right.
a veteran, right? Like
I was not very happy with Bartlett's game. Maybe we'll move to that. Maybe that's a good point.
Bartlett did not have the greatest game.
Not just not the greatest game. Like, it was pretty bad. Like, I think when he retreated defensively and was like sort of helping clog the box as he was told to do, he was fine.
Yeah.
I think he really, really disappointed me in his game reading and just like anticipating play, anticipating where defenders would be, anticipating where his teammates would be. He was just not in the game mentally at all.
When I saw that in the rundown, I kind of chuckled because like I had that same exact thought while I was watching the game, and that he's just struggling to make the correct reads, and he's making I think he's just allowing himself to be maybe too optimistic in his positioning and being too far forward and not doing enough shielding of the center backs, at least for my liking. And I don't know whether that is more due to the coaching that they're receiving, because they really oftentimes seem to be like encouraged to play in that sort of like more flat three, and then they flash up the field to apply pressure to players that are in the zone that is in front of them when they're defending, and so maybe that's just what he's being coached to do. I don't know, but I do think that I would like to see him be much more positionally stuck at a like an anchoring position and really helping shield the center backs. But
the problem is that doesn't seem to be the type of game he wants to play. Like, he's in a fairly aggressive player that like wants to get forward. He wants to help participate in possession, build out, and drive the ball forward. The problem is that he doesn't have the passing accuracy necessary to pull that off. Like, he's like, if he's hitting switches or something like that, he's fine. But the 10 to 15 yarder that's gotta like really be on time into a player's run to continue the play that they're making, he misses that a lot. He misreads where that space is based on where the opponent is closing to and whether he can get it by. He made a really bad turnover in this game because of that. Not only misreads the opponent, misreads his teammate's run. Yeah. And so not only is his teammate past the player, but he's hit it right to the opponent. Yeah. And so he's put his teammate 10 yards behind the play. And it's just like stuff like that. And look, I just got done.
You are correct. Yeah. Like, he did all of those things. But right. But I swear, Manu Garcia has had at least one terrible turnover like that in the defensive at half in every game he's played. So
he has, but that is also from a very similar mindset of go forward at all costs, right? Yep. Like, that is Manu's mindset. And I will say that Manu has 10 other circumstances where he single-handedly breaks the central pressure and puts the team forward into it. So like, I'll take one out of 10. Yeah. Whereas Bartlett is not doing that, right? Correct. So I think that there's a difference between these two things. But also, Bartlett, I say all that saying the same thing I said before, which is he should still be starting at the 6 against Portland, and he should be getting feedback from his coaches and things that he can improve on. He's a 19-year-old rookie. Yep. Playing probably one of the hardest positions on the field.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we're grading on a curve a little bit for sure, and but I think we also need to be honest with each other about how that performance went, and say like, look, this wasn't good enough. And Kerry was like, yeah, this is just maybe it's time for you to sit down and watch a little bit. And I think Radia flipped over there when Basong came on, and they did get instantly a little bit more solid. They weren't really moving the ball forward after that.
That is very, very true.
So there was a consequence of it, but they were much more solid in possession when they had it. So I think that I think that it's important for us to at least be honest about how some of the performances went. And on the offensive side, a lot of them were garbage. So like we'll get there when we get into sort of talking about what the team did. But
I just wanted to really, like, you highlighted one of Bartlett's really high level skill sets, and that is his his reading of when, and his ability to cover for his center backs. I think is that alone makes him worth keeping on the field, because that is not something that Radia does very well at all. And so I think that
it was a key component of why there was no space to pass in the middle of the field. And that is a prime way that Galaxy means to score goals. And again, we'll get to the tactical corner.
Yeah, they kept trying it too. I mean, they were so narrow, but it wasn't working for them.
Right.
Maybe it's because Galaxy don't have a midfield. I don't know.
Or a center forward. They have 2 wingers. That's
right.
it. So we'll get there. So we can't gloss over the fact that offensively the team took 0 shots. Everyone made a very big deal about it. It was quite the conversation amongst all the analytics nerds. Like, everyone was really sort of enjoying it, having fun with it. And I think realistically, you need to have fun with it. Like, look, you win on an own goal. There was actually a really nice sequence of play that created the own goal, honestly. Absolutely. There was a reason why Maya Yoshida had to play that ball, is because if he doesn't, Shoppy's got to tap in. So
when the second that Shallowy hit that ball, I turned to my wife and I said, that is not a ball that we have seen get played that often, right? In previous years, and that's why you play that ball, is because if everything goes right, you get a tap in, but if everything doesn't go right, you're still you're creating problems for the defense.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you. That I think that worst case scenario, there's a deflected clearance by a center back, right? And that you've got 4 guys with a 5th arriving into the box that can jump on top of that, rebound, or do something with it. So I want to talk about 2 things about that sequence. One of them is one you already hit on, just the fact that they went through that pattern. But this is a pattern we're starting to see happen a little bit more often, and I'm sure. I mean, I don't really care if other teams aren't listening to this podcast, but it's a pattern I've seen quite a bit. Shoppy gets 1v1, inverts, and then instead of looking to dribble in and try to split defenders or take them into the 18, he immediately looks for that arriving 8 on the left side and hits the cross over to that side. And Shallowy is immediately making that overlapping run off of it. And you see Radia arrive, get that pass, and hit actually a really nice pass that Shallowy does a really sort of nuanced move on, where he's taking it over his shoulder, looks like he's going to take it, rotates off of it, spins around, and it creates space for him to hit this cross. And obviously you've got Joveljic. Joveljic is kind of in the Man City zone, and then you've got Garcia up at the top of the 18, and you've got Shoppy making the far post run. And God, how many times have we talked about this team hitting crosses to the far post runner? Like, this
many. Just having a far post runner first is a good step, but trying to find them, that's next level stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing Cody loves more than a cross to the far post. Like, that's kind of one of his favorite things.
It kind of is.
And, well, I mean, and the team, the Premier League champions are quite good at this play. So
if you can do it fullback to fullback for a goal, that's when really you'll set me off, because that's the stuff right there.
Exactly. So I think that everything about this movement was really nice. That it turned into an own goal, I don't really care. I was more kind of just analyzing kind of what they're doing, and unfortunately, we didn't see a ton of it in this game. This was they had a lot more useful possession through the first half hour or so, and then it started to kind of go away. And I don't know if that was due to Ndenbe getting injured or not. I mean, they sort of coincided. They moved Manu back over to the left when Ndenbe went off injured, so maybe that had something to do with it. But it really was just a nice sequence of play. But that said, they still took no shots, right? And I mean, that is the thing that happened. But I think we should be clear about something. They didn't have 0 registered shots because they never got into a shooting situation. It's because they chose not to take a bad shot,
Yeah.
which I'm kind of okay with, honestly. Like, what would anyone have said about this game if they, instead of doing what they did, had, got the own goal, ripped 5 low XG shots, ended up with 0.5 XG and won?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? What difference does it make? I don't give a shit. I would much rather they were trying to combine and trying to create something better than going, well, I don't want to make history for not taking a shot, so let me rip a few.
Well, I think that this is a very clear demarcation between Vermes and Zavagnin. I think that what we've seen from the team since Zavagnin has taken over is a clear rejection of that, like, shoot, just go ahead and just let her rip, and a focus on getting better chances, right? Their XG per shot metric is one of the best in the league, right? They don't have
under Zavagnin it is, and
under
not for
it
the
is,
year
right,
it is,
right.
but under Zavagnin it is,
and so it's not like they're not creating a lot of high XG chances at the moment, but they are waiting. They're picking their times, I think, better, and they're only shooting when they have good chances. And just the fact that Eric Tommy played 30 minutes and they still didn't have a shot is like amazing. I mean, I don't know whether
it just shows you that the coach does have an influence over this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we were wondering if this was just kind of how these guys are and they're just going to go and that's what they're going to do. But the Eric Tommy we've seen for the last 5 weeks is a completely different player.
It is. Yeah.
So there is something happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Zavagnin was doing press, I think, yesterday. Someone put it in the Discord. This is your weekly reminder. Join the Discord. Participate in the conversation. There's all kinds of shitting on St. Louis happening right now in the Discord. So if you want to participate in that, that's great.
We approve.
We approve. Link is in the show notes. The conversations Zavagnin had, I think it was with the KCTV5 sports anchor, was like, at some point you've got to give guys a certain level of freedom so they can start to believe that what they're doing is going to work, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got to like put players in places where and let them impact the game. And then once they are able to impact the game, they start to build that belief that they can be competitive and win these games. And he's like, we're starting to build that belief. Like 3 wins in 5 games, like the team is starting to believe in the process and what we're doing and starting to have belief in themselves. And you alluded to this earlier. Sports is still psychological, man. Yeah. Like, and there's the flow state is real and sports psychology is real. And these are a bunch of fairly young soccer players, actually, for the most part. And it's, I mean, all of the things that all of us deal with our own anxieties and concerns and perceived inadequacies and all the stuff that goes on in an individual's brain happen to these soccer players too, man. And it is important to try to get them into a place of confidence. And I think that is what Zavagnin is really focused on doing. And you start to see this with these sort of different choices about how they're going about trying to do it. I think it was the Portland game at home where Zavagnin had highlighted the fact that they had like 3 different 1v1s with a goalkeeper. Yeah. And he's like, that's the kind of shot that we're trying to create. Yep. Right. And I think that it just goes to show like the way he's thinking about the game and like what he's focused on is not ripping 20-yard shots. One of the parts of that ASA podcast that, we had discussed a little bit before we started recording was the discussion around Vermes and how he had sort of hacked XG for a few years by ripping a bunch of ripping 30 shots a game and none of them being that good. But, sort of bangers only FC. We used to joke about it. Yep. But you also, you're creating 1.6, 1.8 XG per game, which is actually pretty good at MLS. And you're just doing it on quantity. Once teams sort of figured out how they were going about that, they started to lay off and just let them shoot and put enough players in place that those percentages got even worse. Yep. And he didn't really evolve from that position. They were starting to try to. You like heard the words of them trying to, but we never really saw it in practice. With Zavagnin, we're seeing it in practice. And that means passing up bad shots and looking for a better one. And so in this circumstance, it meant they took 0. But I think part of it, too, you can be certain they would have taken a bunch of shots if the game state was different.
I would totally agree.
They were once it got to about the hour mark. Mm-hmm. I rewatched this game because almost every home game I need to rewatch because I'm usually not paying as close attention to all the little tactical nuances that I normally would, and because I'm talking with friends, interacting, like sort of being at the game and just having fun as a fan. But secondly, because just from the angle I sit at, it's hard to see like that stuff. And so I always have to rewatch to get a look at it. And I'm telling you, after about an hour, there was no reason to watch anymore.
Yeah.
Mainly because you're just not going to learn anything. Not because the game was, it wasn't, I'm sure as a neutral, it wasn't fun to watch, but because it was a bunch of the same over and over and over again. There was nothing really new happening.
Joveljic had as many touches in his defensive box as he did in the attacking box. Right. It wasn't ideal.
Once they were up 1-0 and they had realized that they weren't sort of getting the chances they wanted out of transition.
Yeah.
And Bartlett came off the field and they sort of sat it in a little bit in the midfield defensively. It was just a matter of just denying space for the Galaxy. And they were very effective. I don't think the Galaxy had a reasonable shot until like right at the end when Royce had those 2 set pieces. You can even see it. I think it's is it Cuevas that takes the shot at like the 87th minute, like from 30 yards, and all of his teammates sort of raised their hands in the air, going like, "What are you doing, dude?"
That was such a bad shot. Even I was like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
Well, so were all of his teammates.
Yeah, wow.
That was right, but I do remember this too. But this happened to Bartlett as well. Like right before he got taken off, he hit a back corner set piece and just hit it straight out of bounds. And it's not like Sporting had a ton of corner kicks in this game, offensive corner kicks, and he hit it straight out of bounds. And like 4 of his teammates turned around and put their hands in the air, going like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And like 60 seconds later, he got subbed off. Yeah. But yeah, I think that like there wasn't a whole lot to take away from the game state after the last 30 minutes. If it's 0-0, I think you're going to see a completely different approach to the game, and you will probably see some shots taken and whatnot. It's just the game state sort of affected this as well. So I'm not making excuses for taking 0 shots. It wasn't good. Like it was not good offensively. I'm not trying to sugarcoat this, but I'm also saying that this could have been a 5 or 6 shot game that they won 1-0 as well.
I don't think that the team right now has the players to really sort of bunker in and defend and then score goals on a pure counter, right? Like they don't have super fast players. They don't have players that really can play in behind like that, and so. I think that that's a big part of it. I think it's a personnel issue as much as anything else.
I think I don't know that it's the players getting behind. It's the way that they mean to progress the ball into those places. They don't have the players that hit those passes. But I think that I feel fairly confident that they have the guys offensively that can make the movement to score a goal if they're in a 4-on-3. I don't think they're very good at getting those guys into that position, and I think that they have one. Anyway, we'll get to tactical corner in a second. I'm stepping on some stuff I want to talk about there. So, last thing, Andrew Brody. What were your thoughts? He only played a half. I'm not surprised by this. Like both he and Jake are coming back from injury, but it sort of made sense. It sounded like maybe Jake had to come in at halftime because they had to use the sub on Ndenbe. In the sub window on Ndenbe in the first half, so they didn't want to use another sub window on Jake, but. So maybe Brody would have played an hour or so. What did you think about his performance?
It's fine. I don't have high expectations for him, but I also don't think that that's necessary. I don't think that your right back has to be like an amazing player. I think that he showed signs of being like a competent player, and that is enough for me, right? Like that works for me, especially if it frees up, Jake Davis to move into the midfield, where I still think that he has a higher upside. So it was fine. I'm not that worried about it either way. If I mean, he's not Graham Zusi. That's okay. He's not going to be Graham Zusi. It's really all right. And if we're worrying about our right back, that's a good problem to have. I think we have bigger issues than that to be concerned about.
We 100% have bigger issues. It was more just like a different thing than we'd seen in that position. Yep. I got to be honest. I was not very impressed with Jake Davis's performance at right back in the second half. I would agree with that. I don't think it was that good. Talk about a guy that has some Danny Rosero in him, where he tries to do too much sometimes defensively, and gave up a bad free kick by doing that. And there's just I don't know. I don't want to get into hot takey situations here with Jake, but this has not been the 2025 I was hoping it would be for Jake Davis, and Some of that has been related to his availability. So maybe it's a thing where they quit sort of forcing him into the lineup, and they can get him healthy, that he'll be a little bit better performer. But yeah, it's just not been the best.
You're right. When he has come in and played right back, it has not generated a lot of confidence, honestly.
Shelton has been a much better defensive right back, but not as good offensively. But I think it's more because he plays right back offensively like a winger, and then they end up with two wingers there that don't know what to do with each other.
Right.
Brody is by far the most fullback right back of anyone on the roster. He plays it like a right back. He looks like a right back. He acts like a right back. He immediately had much more rapport with Shoppy than anyone I've seen all year. And while he is easy to be exposed by Joseph Paintsel 1v1 with the ball,
a lot of people are.
A lot of people. There's a lot of right backs in this league have that notoriety. So I don't really put that on him specifically. He only really got skinned once. The other times he was pretty good at pushing Paintsel back into the middle towards the help. So as long as you're doing that, I think he gave him the end line once, and you just never give Paintsel the end line. Just don't ever do that. But his instincts for where the ball is going, intercepting passes, closing when passes are being received, so he can put back pressure, all that stuff looks like a fullback.
He's like Joe Scally, right? He's okay.
He's fine. He's fine. You know what he is? He's right back Seth Sadovic.
Okay.
It's fine.
Great.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly serviceable. Happy for him to do that for 10 years. It's and I think to your point, you want to have right backs that you don't have to think about.
Yeah,
I would prefer to just not spend a whole lot of time thinking about fullbacks, if I can be completely honest. It's not a position the team should be prioritizing a whole lot of thought and interest in. Amen. So, I think that from that perspective, he fits that. I could basically forget he was there for 90 minutes, which is perfect, in my opinion. So let's move on to Tactical Corner. So I think that there were some very specific choices that Zavagnin made in this game. And so we've talked a lot about this already. The narrow 4-3-3 stayed. But also, really, I alluded to this earlier, and I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are on this. Because of LA's setup, and their only extremely good players being wingers. And I think I said this last week before when we did the preview for this game. I was like, they need to stay narrow, push all the progression wide, and clog the center channels. Just make it very difficult to get into the middle of the field. And that's really what they did. And this is a tactic that has been used against Peter Vermees for a couple years to high effect, especially the beginning of this season. But definitely last year as well. It was just, and Vanny's a fairly similar coach to Vermees, honestly. And Zavagnin just used the defensive tactic that has been used against them for years, and just pushed all the progression wide, and made them try to hit centering balls, and just had a bunch of defenders there. And so I'd be interested to see what you thought of that. But it felt very similar to things we've seen used against Sporting in the past.
Yeah, I would. Excuse me. I would agree with that. I think that they did a really good job of really limiting the dangerous moments from Paintsel and Peck, and like those two players, like honestly, they were not that great in this game, and I think that had a lot to do with it. I mean, if they kept trying to play centrally, and if you look at their passing maps, they were trying to. I don't know. I think that they might have been. I think that they might have been. It's tempting to think that they were trying to take advantage of Sporting Kansas City's center backs. So it's difficult for me to know whether they were playing they were playing centrally because Sporting was forcing them to do so, or whether they were trying to do so, because like their passing maps are like so narrow, and I think that it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because as you've discussed, you know, when you were talking about Brody letting Paintsel down to the end line, I mean that is like that's ideally what you want from those players, right? Is you want them to exploit those wide areas.
So one thing I would say, just real quick, I don't want to poo-poo your whole passing map idea.
Please do it.
They inverted Peck and Paintsel in the second half.
That is true.
So it's going to totally screw up their passing map.
You're absolutely right.
It's going to make them look way narrower than they are because they flip sides in the second half.
You're totally right. So yeah, I mean, given that, I like still the fact remains though is that they did not find a lot of luck playing down the sides.
I mean, average touches for Christian Ramirez were like the half. They were like the half line.
Yeah.
Like he
did not have a good game.
Dejan Jovelic's average touches were deeper on the field than Christian Ramirez's.
Yeah.
So like that should tell you exactly like what Sporting was doing. They were just denying any central touches of the ball. Yeah. And again, like I said, Robbie Voloder was very effective in being very physical with Ramirez when they would try those centering passes. But there was a point, it was like in the second half, it was kind of right before that 30-minute sequence where things sort of died down for a while after Bartlett came off. Royce is 1v1 with Pulskamp. Now, it's a narrow angle, right? Yeah. I mean, Pulskamp's covering most of the angle. Royce, but you expect a guy like Marco Royce to take that shot. Like, I've seen him score that goal for Dortmund. Like, I know he's capable of it. And he instead still tried to center the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Pulskamp is covering the post, and it's a hard shot, right? But you're down 1-0, and there's nothing but traffic to the inside. And he still tried to slip a ball in there, and there's like 3 defenders there. Legit, and so they just kicked it away. And so, like, for me...
Who was he trying to center the ball to?
I think it was either Ramirez or Peck. I'm not sure which one. I'd have to look at it again. There were a few Galaxy players there, but there were like 4 Sporting defenders there. So there was like no room to pull this off, and he still for some reason tried to. And so like I'm interested as well from your perspective, like to the question you had, were they instructed to try to pass into an area where they thought Sporting defenders would not be because they have some film on it or because they've seen them get pulled out of position or something like that? They were trying so hard to get a, like 0.9 XG scoring chance off that they weren't taking. I mean, like, there's no way. Like, I know we talked about Sporting, like, trying to, get higher quality chances. There's no way Shapi Suleimanov doesn't take that shot.
Right.
And Zavagnin would be extremely happy with him taking it, whether it's scored or not. So, like, I was kind of surprised. And I call up that specific example because I saw it so much in this game. So, to me, it seems like Zavagnin had a read on how Vanny is trying to get this team into scoring positions and just cut off all those lanes. And they are the same fucking way that Vermees has been trying to score goals for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's the same defensive tactic that has been used against Sporting to very high effect. Lay off them and block any long shots and compress the center and let them progress and then just close off any cutback. Any type of cutback, any type of centering ball. They had the players there to do it, and it was a very effective. And it was just wild to me because I have never seen Sporting Kansas City defend like this before.
Yeah, they were amazing defensively. So one thing that I noticed, and like this is even before they sort of inverted, is like Paintsel was not super wide. Like he spent a lot of time sort of more in that half space channel.
Yeah.
And
when he was on the right, he was more inverted. He was even more further inside.
I did not associate that with him. Like I didn't think that was his game. I expected him to be wider, especially given the right back situation that Kansas City finds itself in. And so like that was surprising to me. And I don't know whether that's just Paintsel doing what he wanted or whether that was an instruction from Greg Vanny. But it worked. It worked against them, right? Like it
just made them even more compressed against Sporting's super narrow, compressed shape, and they just was no space.
Yeah, if there's one thing that Paintsel like thrives off it's space. Right.
The same thing with Peck. Like he's usually like blasting down the right end line, or right touch line. Like that's kind of his thing. I would say that Paintsel had much more joy moving down the left side, even when he would get 1v1 with Brody or whatever, than Peck ever did in this game. Peck was basically non-existent. He finally started to get something when they moved him to the left. When Davis was over there, he started to get a little bit more joy. But I don't feel like I think this is what I was mentioning last week when we did the preview. When you only have to game plan for two guys, things get a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big problem for Galaxy is that I mentioned earlier their midfield, and even though their midfield, when you look at like Thought Mob, they had pretty high scores. Like they're not that what did they do, right? Like what did Cerrillo and Fagundes do?
They have high Thought Mob scores because they had a ton of passes at a high percentage completion.
Absolutely,
because Sporting just sat off them. The only time they pressed was on goal kicks. That was literally the only time Sporting would press at all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they were perfectly fine with the Galaxy walking the ball up to the half line.
Yeah. And Royce was really not dangerous at all, except for maybe on set pieces. And so
that guy, he obviously came in last year injured, like because he could barely play for most of that playoff run. I don't know if that injury did something to him. I don't know if he's doing we have seen this with some players with the quote unquote retirement league moniker. Mm-hmm. Like some of them come in and legitimately pack it in, like Frank Lampard, right? Like they just show. Do you remember that Frank Lampard played in MLS?
Oh, I do. Yes, I do.
But
Andrea
Pirlo. Pirlo actually at least played quite a bit. I'm not sure how good he was, but he played quite a bit.
He was not good.
And one, Andoni Iraola played for that NYCFC team, but not one that go Cherries.
Goated.
Yeah, probably the best coach in the Premier League right now. I know you got Arne Slot high on your mantle, but I love Iraola and what he's doing at Bournemouth. Great. I think that we have seen this from some players, and Royce seems to be kind of doing that. Like, I'm not saying that he's not competing, but I know Zach Cobb has watched a million more minutes of Dortmund than I have, and maybe he'd have a better perspective on this, but when I've watched Dortmund, I did not remember seeing this version of Marco Reus.
Yeah. Agree.
Even right before he left and was coming to LA, I actually scouted a few Dortmund games to kind of see what legs he had left in him, and he looked really good. Mm-hmm. So certainly looked a lot better than Gio Reyna. And I don't know what this version of him is about. Like I said, maybe just LA life is all he wanted. So let's move on to the building blocks of this, because I actually was very warmed by the defensive solidity, the organization, the ability to be very sound and controlled defensively. The tactic also required the team to be effective in transition. Mm-hmm. That was not very good. And so you were noting that you don't think the players are the right ones to build transition moments. I think for me,
So specifically from deep, right? Like they can transition, especially from that mid block. I think that they can do a good job with that, but um, I just don't think that they have the speed and athleticism on the wings to really be effective transitioning from
I
deep.
don't think they're Joseph Paintsel or Dennis Bawanga as athletic, but I think Daniel Shalhoub is plenty fast enough to get on a break. I don't think that that's a problem. I've watched him run by players plenty of times. I don't really think that that's the issue. Well, I mean, maybe it's part of an issue. Maybe it's part of the issue. What I really think their issue is that they don't have this tactic seemed to scream for Eric Tommy. Let's be honest. Like, this is the kind of thing, like, running into space with the ball is kind of his bag. Like, it's kind of what he does. The problem they're having is that I don't think they have the passers to release those transition moments. So, like, when they happen, pick your head up, hit the ball. Although Voloder is capable of hitting that ball, maybe, and Miller can too. So, they just didn't seem to, when they would get to a point of clearance, actually settle the ball at their feet, look up, and actually try to hit that pass. It was more just like blind clearance instead, and just hoof it up there and hope to win a second ball. But usually the pressure wasn't coming fast enough. So the second thing I just want to hit really quick. I think that they were, because of that, they're really worried. They're really focused on getting Manu the ball to distribute because he's the only legitimate distribution hub on the team.
Yep.
Which means Manu's touches are all way too far away from goal.
Yep.
And so even if he does his patented half turn out of double pressure and into space and releases a pass, they're going downhill with 3, and Manu's 25 yards behind the play.
Your best playmaker.
Right.
Yeah. Totally agree.
And so if you're waiting for him to get to the play so that he can get to zone 14 and deal, by then the opponent has reset their defense. And it didn't seem to work in the way that, and I'm not sure how organized their planning was for what they were going to do when they got in possession.
I would agree with that. A couple of things. So the first thing that kind of bugged me was the fact that during that period, Joveljic stayed centrally. Like, even when they won the ball, like if they win the ball on the left side, Joveljic still stayed centrally. So they didn't have an outlet. Like, what I would prefer is Joveljic making sort of a sneaky diagonal run into the left channel so that whoever, if you win the ball on the left side, you have an outlet on that side of the field, right? Because your wingers are back playing defense, and good for them. He
got one of those in the second half. One. You saw him get on his horse and absolutely just drive the ball downhill. So he can do it.
But that's what it takes. When you say centrally, right, you're automatically like boxed in by 2 center backs, and so it makes your job harder. So the goal is to get out out in a little bit of
Suarez.
space.
Like, this is the Suarez run,
sure,
right?
Sure. Yeah, you get out in a little bit of space.
He's made a career out of doing this.
Make your life easier. Absolutely.
Bobby Firmino was actually pretty good at this too. Like, there's a number of center forwards that would flare out wide and give an outlet to that side. And it's like reading when the clearance is going to happen, rotating into that space, giving the ball over the top. Like, it's just sort of smart center forward shit. But
it's also a lot of work, and it's thankless work, right? Because you're constantly making runs and recycling runs, and your team's defending their ass off, and a lot of times those passes don't come off, or they get intercepted, or the runs aren't quite the right run. So, like, it takes a lot of energy to do that kind of thing, which
well, and I got to be honest, like, Joveljic was tanked at the end of this game.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, and so he had been making a lot of runs. Joveljic is not a guy who doesn't work. Like,
right.
I don't think you ever have to be concerned about him putting in 90 minutes of effort. But they were out of subs, and he was absolutely smoked. There was there's an opportunity where it looks like he might actually get on one, and he just basically pulls up. And John Muller actually, I think, said at the time, he's like, I'm convinced Joveljic pulled up on this so they could continue with 0 shots in the game. But
what a hero.
Yeah. But realistically, like, he was smoked. So it's not like he wasn't putting in the effort, but you're right. I think I think if the game goes differently from a substitution perspective, that maybe Joveljic does get subbed out for Toy or Munoz or whoever, and maybe that they're able to do something with that position a little bit more for the last 20 minutes. But Ndembe's injury is obviously kind of threw a lot of that stuff out of whack.
Yeah.
And Brody not being 90 minutes fit. So, like, you immediately have to sub both fullbacks. You're guaranteed to have to do that. And now you've got 3 left and 2 windows to do it in. And, yeah, Bartlett had to come off. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the game state went the way it did.
Yep.
And it just but this is why you can't plan subs. Like,
Exactly.
it is what it is. Like, sometimes this
shit happens, man.
And you gotta be able to deal with it.
Yep.
I think that the team has a long way to go on their accuracy with some of this transition passing. Mm-hmm. It's just like they're just not very good at it.
No, it's not an easy thing to do either. I mean, it's
requires a lot of practice.
It requires a lot of practice, absolutely.
If you watch, so it's like Sporting's never going to be a team, at least in my opinion. I mean, I'd love to see them play like Columbus or Vancouver, where they can just pass through your pressure and like create their own space via passing movement. I don't think that this is the personnel grouping that's going to pull that off.
Yeah.
So I think being pragmatic about, what your strengths and weaknesses are and trying to maximize them is probably good. But yeah, they got to figure out a better way to release those transition events. And maybe it is more of, they just got to do less blind clearances. There needs to be a little bit more intention to when they do get the opportunity to clear. If you don't have a guy like right on top of the ball, just take a second, just take a half second, look up and hit it somewhere you're intending to.
It's also though about having players having players have a like a set place that they're going to be, or a familiarity with the runs that certain players make, so that you can go from your defensive third to a shot on goal in 3 passes, right? Like elite counterattacking teams need to be able to do that kind of thing, and Sporting Kansas City is not even close to being that yet.
I mean, what MLS teams are that good at that, though?
True, not very many.
Maybe Minnesota is probably the only one I can think of, and it's taken them almost a year and a half to get to that level, right?
But they were
almost
a mess before Ramsey took over, and that's one of the things when
they were a mess after he took over for a while too,
Sure.
while he put this system in place, right?
When late summer when they came to Sporting Kansas City, they beat Sporting Kansas City, and I remember they being just so impressed with their defensive organization, and like that's the feeling I'm starting to feel now by seeing when I see the 4-3-3, that sort of block of defenders in a very tight and organized shape. Like that to me is a signal that okay, like this is a team that is starting to really understand the sort of the organization and the discipline that's needed to be a superior defensive team.
I agree. I like I said, it's a 1-game sample size, but they were much better defensively against Cincinnati as well.
They were.
So
Yep.
I think we're seeing a over the last several games their defensive posture improve and their organization improve. It'll be interesting to see, because Portland is going to be an interesting matchup for them, because that was kind of the last time that we remember them really sort of making a couple big oopsies that led to goals. So whether they're able to eliminate that or not, Portland is performing fairly well right now. So we'll have to see if that. So what are your thoughts before we close this topic on Eric Tommy and whether maybe he's a better fit for that type of transition play?
I don't think he is, just because he is not a good enough passer, honestly. I mean, I think that
I'm more thinking of him as a winger in that circumstance.
Well, you still need to be able to pass, right? During if you're transitioning as a winger, and so like I don't know.
We've seen him since Kerry's taken over make some nice passes. So
he's just such a difficult player for me to like get my head around and evaluate because he's really good at like a few things, and then he's not very good at like most of the other things, and so it's hard to find a place where he fits. And I think that's obvious. Like, he's coming off of the bench, and he is a veteran player, and a pretty highly played player, and obviously a leader on the team, and yet he's been relegated to coming off of the bench, not because he's bad, just because he doesn't have a place where he fits, and he really kind of never has.
Well, I mean, that's always been like the Weston McKennie problem.
Yeah.
It's been there's a number of players
Except
that are
Weston
like
McKennie
this.
can play lots of different positions, and Eric Tommy, like,
Well, I mean, he's played left wing, right wing, midfield, like both midfield positions, like a center forward. Like, I mean, all he needs to do is play right back, and he'll have like the Weston McKennie going.
Okay, maybe I'll agree with your point a little bit, but it seems to me like he hasn't done any of those very well at all. But
I mean, obviously that like Weston has been good at a couple of, like, very good at a couple of those, and it looks like he's extending at Juventus, which is an interesting choice. But Wes is an interesting dude, so I don't know. I think Shoppy is a much more traditional winger.
Absolutely,
and I think that part of the problem this team has had over the last several years is square peg round hole in it too much. Mm-hmm. And maybe getting back to just getting people who are good at the positions that you need them to play, and playing it with those positions is the way to go. And that's, for the most part, what they're doing right now. Right back excluded, obviously, but for the most part, that's what they're doing. And I think that is why Tommy's coming off the bench more than anything.
I totally agree, and I think that's, I mean, like, he's not a bad player, but it's just, where does he fit?
And as we said last week, he's offered value off the bench, and especially at the end of that game, Shoppy is not a good defensive winger. He is not. So having a much more defensively responsible and much more active player at the end of that game was actually helpful. So
totally agree.
It worked out. So let's move on to potpourri. Just like your favorite Jeopardy category, we've got a few topics in and around the sporting Kansas City MLS soccer sphere. I didn't even see this Kansas City Current game, unfortunately. Okay, so we won't talk too much about it, other than the fact that injuries have started to catch them a little bit, and the Reign have had Kansas City's number before. They just sort of do exactly what Sporting Kansas City did to the Current, or to the Galaxy, is what happened to the Current. They just sort of defended a lot, got one goal in, and just offered them nothing else. And when you don't have Temwa, you don't have Michelle Cooper, and you don't have Nichelle Prince, and just like things become a lot more difficult. And that's kind of what seems to have happened. It sounds like Nichelle Prince is back in full training. Temwa, maybe not. Michelle Cooper is going to be a few more weeks, so we'll have to see if they're able to improve. They're at home this weekend, right? So
Mother's Day special
for the Current. So hopefully they're able to move that forward. Have you heard about the last CONCACAF Club World Cup bid?
I have.
So
amazing.
LAFC plays Club America at BMO Stadium, so it's technically a home game for LAFC. But I bet there's a lot of Club America fans in LA.
It's technically a cash grab for FIFA. That's for sure.
I'm surprised it's not at the Rose Bowl, to be completely honest.
Hey, they might change it. Honestly.
Well, I'm sure the Rose Bowl wasn't available. I'm sure that's why they're doing this. But huge cash grab for FIFA. I would dare to assume that LAFC's season ticket members are not getting priority for these tickets, and it's going to be very much a how much can I sell these for to anybody who will pay it.
Must be nice for someone to come and say, hey, play a game, and if you win, you get $10 million. That sounds great.
That is pretty great.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So the $10 million Cody's referring to is the entry. Like, every team in the tournament gets $9.5 million, or I guess the CONCACAF teams get $9.5 million. The UEFA teams get even more than that, but the CONCACAF teams all get $9.5 million just for being in the tournament. And if they advance, it starts to go up exponentially. You start winning games.
And they get, a lot of them get like another window, like a mini window, a transfer window.
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion about that. FIFA has approved a special transfer window to help these Club World Cup teams register players before the tournament. So federations are allowed to have a window from the 1st of June to the 10th of June, if they choose. We have no confirmation as to whether USSF has chosen to allow this or not. It would be specific to USSF because there are no Canadian teams in the tournament. And if they were to allow it, there's some reporting from the BBC that it does actually take away from your 16-week total that you can have for a year. So potentially the MLS window for US-based teams would actually get reduced by 10 days. So you would assume that would probably be at the end of that window. Or maybe it would be you would probably do it at the beginning if you were to do that.
If you have a choice, you want it at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, because you'd want the window to go as late as possible if you've got that 10 days beforehand. So I'm sure there's a whole lot of negotiating and conversations going on right now. Tom Bogert has reported on the fact that he asked MLS about this. They said, check with USSF. He called USSF. 3 days later, got nothing. Called him again and said, hey, what's going on? And they're like, well, that group's on vacation. Okay.
Classic.
So we're a month away from this window potentially opening, and no one has no idea if it's open or not. Jeremiah O'Shan told me that the people within the Sounders organization were under the impression it would be. Like they have players lined up they would like to bring in at that time.
That's spicy.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But what I have also heard is that if the Federation opens that window, they open it for every affiliated club. Mm-hmm. So that would mean all MLS teams in the U.S. would be able to register or bring in players for those 10 days, which would do a lot of weird stuff to the league, man. So because it wouldn't make any sense to only shorten the window for 10 days for 2 teams.
Yeah.
Or 3 teams, right? Like you wouldn't do that. So a lot of unknowns about this. I'm sure it'll get reported on as to what's actually happening. It would not surprise me at all if U.S. Soccer just didn't do it. Yeah. Because it would be too complicated. But that is interesting to me that the Sounders believe that they're going to be able to bring players in if all of a sudden they were told not, they couldn't.
I've been very sort of skeptical of the Club World Cup, but it's kind of giving car crash vibes, which is interesting. So
yeah, I don't know how much of this tournament I'm going to watch. But all of the drama around it is actually like I'm gonna watch LAFC versus Club America. Like that game is gonna be nuts. It's gonna be fun. Like it's gonna be really like crazy MLS After Dark vibes. Another key thing about that, LAFC plays Sporting Kansas City at home 3 days beforehand.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So that's actually probably a good thing. Like Sporting's in this really crazy part of the schedule where they got to play like 7 games this month. Another benefit is they while they go to Portland this weekend, they have to go to St. Louis on Wednesday. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to pod before or after that. I hadn't really thought about that. But
anytime you can put a rivalry game on a Wednesday,
you have to do it, right?
When school's still in session,
100% have to do it, right?
Great call, MLS. Yeah. Great.
Really cool idea. Like, well done. Well done on your part.
There might be dozens of people at the stadium.
About as many as are at the U.S. Open Cup game tonight. That's another conversation. I'm not going to relitigate that right now, but it's in the Discord if you want to hear about it. Anyway, I do think that Sporting is getting lucky with a little bit with while they are having to play a couple Wednesdays this month, they are in the middle of a really tough run for their opponent as well. So, so St. Louis plays today, they play again on the weekend, and so they'll be on their 3rd game in 8 days when they play Sporting next Wednesday. And then also have to play the following weekend. Sporting, similarly, they play LAFC midweek on the road, but it's also LAFC's game before they try to get into the Club World Cup. So they're catching these schedule congestion things at the right time, at least when it comes to their opponent and how rotated their lineup might be and how fatigued they might be. So things are, at least somewhat being they're not as quite a bad a shape as they were last year when some of this stuff happened, where they were like going on the road, or they had St. Louis here, I think, for a game right after they had played 3 games in 8 days, and St. Louis was on a 10-day break. So yeah, none of that weirdness is happening right now. So that I think that's a positive at least. Speaking of, St. Louis is playing the Owls of Union Omaha. Hoot hoot. There are about 12 St. Louis fans in the stands for this one, and it is 0-0 at halftime.
What?
Yeah.
St. Louis is having trouble scoring?
It's a wild,
That is
wild
wild.
development. Yeah.
Okay.
Shocking development. St. Louis has not scored a goal. But yeah, so go Owls. We'll see. Have to see
Amen.
how that game finishes out. I'm sure I'll be watching the end of it while editing this podcast. Last thing in the potpourri I wanted to highlight. Actually, two more things. One of them's not on the rundown. Kevin Denke. This is actually kind of a cool story. He wins goal of the week for the bicycle kick against Sporting. Buys 150 bicycles for Cincinnati kids, like students at Cincinnati schools. And now they're giving the bikes to kids who have perfect or near perfect attendance records, which is like, come on. I mean, a kid can't take a sick day. Like, come on, man. I got my fever, my head. It hurts. Like, come on. I can't get a bike now. But actually, it's still a pretty cool story. Like him buying bicycles for kids is part of it. Like, that's the way you endear yourself to your fans, man.
Absolutely.
Like, that is
Classy
endearment
move.
101. Yeah. Last thing that I did want to cover, I think Mike Kuhn put it on all of his social media channels. Gadi Kinda is apparently having some sort of medical issues in Israel. I can only read the translation of the tweet from his club, but it just sounds like he had maybe at some point been hospitalized and is going through some sort of medical issue, and they're just like hoping that he gets better. And it's like, obviously a lot of warm moments of his time here in Kansas City, and just wish nothing for the best for Gotti and hope that he recovers well. And even if he doesn't play soccer again, whatever, just get healthy, and that is obviously the first priority. So
Absolutely.
wish him the best. Okay, let's do a quick preview of Portland. This is a team we played 3 weeks ago. I don't know that we need to spend a ton of time diving into what they're going to be. Like they are the same team that we saw 3 weeks ago in Kansas City. Do you think like their chance creation since playing Kansas City has been significantly better? They played that absurd match against LAFC at home that they drew 3-3. 4-2 wins over the Galaxy, although they gave up a lot. Like they've been giving up a lot of chances in all these games.
Yeah.
So they gave up
They
2
are not a
XG
good
to us.
defensive team.
They gave up 2.7 XG to LAFC. So like they're averaging like 2.5 XGA in the last 4 games, including the one they played against Sporting. Now the one against Sporting had 2 penalty kicks in it, but still like they have been giving up chances. Now those are against teams that outside of the Galaxy playing Sporting have been, they're good attacking teams. So LAFC, LA Galaxy, San Jose, those are all teams that are going to put XG on you usually. Mm-hmm. So that might have something to do with it. But still, they are a team that you can create chances against. Do you think Sporting's going to have any sort of sour taste in their mouth about not getting those goals across the line against them beginning of the month or about a month ago?
I don't know. I think at this point, like, I would be surprised if this team dwelled too much on what happened a couple of games ago. I think that if I were coach of this team, I would tell them just to focus on building on the positive things that happened during the Galaxy game, and so that means running out Miller and Voloder again and seeing if they can continue to grow and develop that rapport. That means maybe starting Jacob Bartlett again and giving him some minutes and seeing how he responds to that. That means running out Radia again and seeing if he can build on the success that he had. And so I really think that the sensible way to approach this is just in terms of just really meticulous building blocks, like one right after the other. And we know the danger that Portland's attack offers, and so it's about not getting overextended. It's about playing within yourself, like we discussed, and keeping that going ahead, because they have dangerous attackers and they will pose a threat regardless. And so it's about being able to limit that, and to see if we can maybe find a little bit more service to Joveljic in dangerous areas. That's what I'm looking for. I want Joveljic to get some touches in the boxes, in the attacking box specifically, in this game, because that didn't happen enough in the last game. And you can't, winning a fluky 1-0 match is great, but you can't depend on that. You have to be able to score, and you have to be able to score multiple goals in games, especially in MLS. And so that's what I want to see from the team.
Yeah, I think that's a fair expectation. I think if I'm looking at sort of their injury situation, it has gotten significantly worse since they played us about a month ago. Looks like Diego Chara, Gilmer Fiore is still out. Diego Chara's out.
That's so terrible.
Gilmer
Really
Fiore is still
Chara.
is like, I guess, re-injured. I thought that he had come back, but it looks like he kind of got re-injured, and Anthony's doing that wingback thing again sometimes. Pantemis, who had a bunch of insane saves, is injured. Has been injured.
Too bad, really.
Yeah. So, and they also had to play 120 minutes. Or did they play 120? I think they did. Or no, Kelsey scored in stoppage time to win the Open Cup game last night. So, yeah. Now, granted, they still have Max Crepeau, so it's not like they're but he got benched for a reason. Like, he had been garbage.
Yeah.
But Pantemis, who had a bunch of insane saves in that game, is out. Diego Chara is out. Gilmer Fiore is out. And Cabecito Rodriguez is injured again. So
again, or still?
Well, he played against us. He played it in the second half against us. So FOTMOB has him listed as injured.
Huh. Okay.
He played 71 minutes and came off against LA, against the Galaxy, and then was listed as injured against the Quakes.
Okay.
And I'm not like reading all of the Portland blogs and availability reports and whatnot, but I mean, I'm just going off of what FOTMOB has for their injury stuff. But I think that plays into Sporting's favor, especially if Anthony's playing wingback again.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see. I think that they've the defensive solidity. I think if they can maintain that level of organization while being a little bit more aggressive about going forward, that would be kind of what I'd be looking for. The building blocks of that, and like you said, they've got to find a way to get Joveljic more engaged in games, as well as getting Manu Garcia touches in zone 14. Like that's really what I want to see. You need to have your chance creator creating chances, not ball progressing. Like I'm happy that he's so good at progressing the ball, but we need someone to hit the final pass, and he can't do the ball progression and the final pass.
One thing that I have been kind of a thought that I've been flirting with in my mind is maybe spending the third DP spot on another sort of number 10 attacking midfielder type, and dropping Manu deeper. Do you think that is a realistic scenario? Not in terms of what you think the club will do, but just in terms of you think that would work on the field.
It's an interesting way to go about it. I do like Manu. I think Manu is a tweener player, which is typically what you see from the 8-10s from Sporting, right? Like they're that 8-10 is an 8-10. Like it is very much more like that thing. So you're thinking more of, like, if I was to make the Liverpool corollary, Manu becomes more of the Alexis McAllister, and you go sign a MLS Dominic Soboslai.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, it works for them.
Yeah.
It works really well for them.
I've been really impressed with Manu's his willingness to play.
They kind of have MLS Curtis Jones and Jake Davis already, so like,
Right.
I mean,
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad.
I don't
thing,
know either. I'm just saying it's what it is.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I don't know. It's just a thought that crossed my mind. It'll be interesting to see if Portland comes out in a 5-man back line or in a 4-man back line. So because they've kind of been
Against San
They've
Jose,
done
they
both.
were in a 5, but I mean, San
Yeah.
Jose plays in a 3-4-3 kind of
Right.
thing, right? So
Right.
like that may have been just more to match up with them, and then
Yeah.
it's something that Phil Neville has rolled out. It looks like they were back in the 4-2-3-1 against Tacoma.
they were.
So I don't know, but I mean, they're playing the Tacoma Defiance, otherwise
Right.
known as Seattle Sounders, B team.
Yeah.
So and still almost lost that game. By the way. I mean, it helped that they were able to loan back Georgie Minanongu, who is actually a really good player.
He is
And
very good.
they also have Dwayne De Rosario's son playing
really?
striker.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
You didn't know that?
No, I did not.
So D-Ro's son plays striker for the easy for me to say, Tacoma Defiance. And there's been some talk about them calling him up to the first team with their injury issues at center forward. So
I'm intrigued, but I also feel really old. And I don't need any help. I feel old enough already. So
especially given that this kid is 23. Like
Yeah,
it's not like
that's
he's like
crazy.
17 or something. He's 23. Anyway, yeah, I'm hopeful. I like building blocks, like we said
Sure.
over and over, is progress. I think we saw some progress defensively, and maybe not so much on the offensive end. But I think some of that was due to the tactics defensively, and just them not having a whole lot of experience trying to attack offensively in the way that they were set up. And maybe that improves. I don't think that they need to set up that way against most opponents. So maybe we'll see something a little bit more progressive as far as the mindset offensively in this one. But I don't know. We'll see. Every week's a new experience, which is nice. It's nice.
it makes it interesting to talk about, doesn't it?
It certainly does. When you have to develop a podcast around it, it's much easier to come up with things to talk about when there are new things every week. So
It's a lot more enjoyable just to watch, just to be a fan of, honestly.
1,000,000%, and hopefully it will continue to be enjoyable this weekend, and we'll have more things to bring to you next week. And until then, I'm Drew. He is Cody. We will talk to y'all next week.
Go Sporting.
Start to ignite.